Hi everybody, so this video is going to hopefully help you do assignment number 1 for this week. There are 3 assignments. When you open up the file from Teams, you're going to see the steps already written out for you. I understand that this might be confusing to understand for some, so that's why I decided to make the video instead. So if you keep scrolling down the file, you'll find assignment number 1. So let me go ahead and do some examples. The topic of the lesson is adding and subtracting rational expressions. It basically means add and subtract fractions. So here's the first rule. When the denominator is the same, all you have to do is just add and subtract the numerators, and you just keep the denominator as it is. So let's look at this example. If you notice, the denominator is 7 for this fraction, and the denominator here is also 7 for this fraction. So when you have the exact same denominator, you're just going to add or subtract the numerator depending on the problem. This one wants us to add. So you're just going to add straight across. So 5 plus 13 is 18. And this is the important part. You're going to keep the same denominator. So I get 18 over 7. Last thing you want to check is always make sure that your answer is simplified. Simplified just means, can it be any smaller of a fraction? So how do you do that? You find common factors. So for example, 18. 18 is made up of, let me do it this way. 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6, 4 does not work, 5 does not work, and after 5 it's 6, but I already have 6 on the list, so I stop. For number 7, it's 1 times 7, 2 doesn't work, 3 doesn't work, 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work, 6 doesn't work, and after 6 it's 7, but it's already on the list, so I stop. So if you look at the numbers, they have nothing in common except for 1. Well, if I divide 18 by 1, it stays as 18. If I divide 7 by 1, it stays as 7. So regardless, I still get 18 over 7. So you cannot simplify this fraction any further, and you're done. Let's look at this example here. Always check the denominator. 21, 21, it's the same. So what do? Just focus on the numerator here, and they want us to do 2 minus 20. Please be careful when you use the calculator. You don't want to do 20 minus 2 because it's completely different. Always read it from left to right. 2 minus 20 is negative 18. And what do you do with the denominator? You keep it. It needs to stay the same. Lastly, just check if you can simplify. Alright, for 18, I have 118, 2, 9, 3, 6. I'm just using this list over here. And that's it. For 21, it's 1 times 21. 2 doesn't work. 3 times 7. 4 doesn't work. 5 doesn't work. 6 doesn't work. And I already have 7 on the list, so I stop. If I look at the list here, they have 3 in common. So what you want to do is divide both of these numbers by the common factor. So negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6. 21 divided by 3 is 7. And there is your answer simplified. That's it. So again, the rule is when the denominator is exactly the same, you just add or subtract the numerator and you just keep the denominator as it was. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to move on. Okay, let's look at these two problems. Always check the denominator. I have 8 here and I have 5 here. They are not the same. So what do? So here's rule number 2. When the denominators are different, how do I word this? Multiply both fractions by the opposite denominator. Okay, so let me see if this makes sense. When your denominators are different, you're going to multiply both fractions by the opposite denominator. So for example, this fraction you're going to multiply it by this denominator. And this fraction, you're going to multiply by the other denominator. Opposite, other. So let me explain. So 1 over 8, we're going to multiply top and bottom by the other denominator. We still keep the plus sign because that's what the problem wants us to do. And for 15 over 5, we're going to multiply top and bottom by the other denominator, which is 8. Yes? Now what you have to do now is go ahead and multiply, distribute. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 8 is 40. 15 times 8 is 120. 5 times 8 is 40. And they want us to add. And now, if you look, we have the same denominator. So what do you do when the denominator is exactly the same? That brings us back to the first rule. When a denominator is the same, you just add and subtract the numerators and you keep the denominator. So then I just add the numerator. 5 plus 120 is 125, and you keep the denominator. Before you finalize your answer, just please always make sure it's simplified. So this one might take a little bit of time because we have to figure out what they have in common. So for those of you who are not good with your times tables, don't worry. All you need is just a calculator from your phone. And just divide in order. So 121 divided by 1 is 125. 125 divided by 2 doesn't work. It's not a whole number. Doesn't work. 4 also doesn't work. There you go. So it was 5 and we got 25. So 125 divided by 5 is 25. 5 times 25 is 125. This is going to be a bit repetitive, but you just have to do it. So you only stop when the numbers start repeating. I'm just doing everything step by step for students who might not understand how this works. So just be patient, bear with me. All right, we're at 14, and that still doesn't work. Oh my goodness. Bad number. I picked a bad number. It's okay. I think we're almost there. guys. I'm just a little bit tired. Oh, all right, there we go. So 25. Well, you know what? We already had 25. Okay. What's the next number? 40. 1 times 40. 40 divided by 2 is 20. 40 divided by 3. Nope. 40 divided by 4 is 10. 40 divided by 5 is 8. 40 divided by 6 doesn't work. 7 doesn't work. After 7 it's 8, but we already have 8 on the list. So now you're done. And now you just have to compare and figure out what number they have in common. If they have multiple numbers in common, you always want to choose the biggest number. So let's see. 5. So what you do is you go back and you divide both of these numbers by the number they have in common. So 125 divided by 5 is 25. 40 divided by 5 is 8. And there is your answer simplified. I hope that makes sense. Let's try this last one. Again, always check the denominator. We have different denominators. So what do? You multiply both fractions by the opposite or the other denominator. So here I'm going to multiply 3 over 11 by this denominator here, top and bottom. Okay? The problem is asking us to subtract, so I need to keep the sign. Now I'm going to multiply this fraction by the other denominator, which is 11. Make sure you multiply top and bottom. Then go ahead and just multiply. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 11 is 44. Minus 7 times 11 is 77. 4 times 11 is 44. Now if you look, our denominator is the same. So when it's the same, you apply the first rule that we went over, which is to just work with the numerators and leave the denominator alone. So 12 minus 77 is negative 65. And you just keep the denominator when it's the same. Yes? And last thing you have to do is just make sure if it can be simplified, that you simplify it. You have to find, or you have to first check to see if they have any numbers in common, and you just divide it out. They don't have anything in common. So there is your answer simplified. I hope it makes sense. So that's all you have to do for assignment number 1. If you have any other further questions, just take a picture of the work that you're doing. Just send it to me on Remind and I will respond. I apologize if I do respond late. Sometimes I don't get the notifications. Sometimes I'm just busy with other things. But I promise I will get back to you. So just let me know if you need help and I'll be here for you guys. Alright, well, good luck. Thank you, everybody.